So thank you everyone again for being here in this new uh, summer projects edition. So last Friday we did the kickoff for the other project, the Media Work Week, and today we are going to do the kickoff for the open source Copilot for smpte. So this is super cool. Let me share my screen with you. We're going to go through slides and then discuss some something like to get started. So first of all, welcome everyone. Uh, this is the kickoff of the project. So summer projects. The summer projects are like a event we do all every year since we started 5 years ago, I think. The idea is in the context of the summer camp, let's do some open source projects together that bring value to the community, and also execute these projects in a collaborative way so we can everyone like share knowledge and learn together, because again the video world is very big, and even now we have AI up around. So the idea is maybe no one is super expert on something, and doesn't matter. The idea is to come here and have like a challenge and learn together and try to achieve some goals. And and that's the spirit of this. So to create value by sharing knowledge between us. So keep that in mind, because that will be like the mood around this 2.5 months that we have until the summer week. So people, there are 3 ways to collaborate in the summer projects overall. So you can be a tech sponsor, for example, Andy here in this project. You can be a contributor that is to join the projects. You can do it in 2 ways: by joining the weekly meetings, where we are going to discuss about the progress and what we should do, or learn new stuff regarding everything we learn from the projects. And also to be an industry supporter like smpte here, that the idea is to build something for smpte. So the idea is, okay, let's do something that someone needs, and that's the overall goal of this. The overall of the schedule for this is that we are now doing the kickoff of the here. Yeah, you can see my pointer. Amazing. We are doing the kickoff of the yeah, of the AI track. We also have another one about Media Work Week. If you are interested in that, also write to us and we can send you links and everything. And it is that we are going to finish all the projects the last day of January, almost, in what we call the summer week. The summer week, it's an in-person event that we host in Montevideo. It's the last week of January, and a lot of people here I know are coming. For example, Andy, Scott, uh, who else is coming from here?
Bavesh just booked his tickets.
Oh, Babesh. So yeah, we have a lot of people that will come to Montevideo, so that's super cool. Where we are going to have a lot of, it's a cultural experience. Being in Montevideo, we're going to share a lot of moments together. For example, you can see the pictures going to a winery, dancing some tango, but also some technical track where we host an event about with talks, lightning talks, and all that regarding the technical aspect. And also, we're going to have the last session of the projects with a demo of everything we achieved together. So if you are interested in to know more about the summer week in person, please go to Agustina. She just put a link over there. You can write down, and Agustina will take care of everything. If you need to book tickets to know more about the hotels or whatever, Agustina will help you with everything. Also, special thanks to technical sponsors this year. For the Media Work Week track, it's Mike English and Luke Curley, and here it's Andy Beach for the AI Copilot for smpte. So thank you a lot, Andy, for being here, and also for be the technical sponsor. So we hope to learn a lot from you. So now let's go into this project. Let's talk about the open source Copilot for multimedia archives and in this case for SMT. So, and please help me here. Maha, I know you will be able to talk a lot more about what I can say about SMT, but just to be a quick intro for people who doesn't know what SMT is the Society of Motion Picture and Television Engineers. So they have been here from more than 100 years ago, I think, and they have been creating all the specs and all the amazing technology that nowadays we use every day, and maybe we even don't realize. For example, for those who doesn't know, they were the people who standardized, the color bars here. So I was a kid, just turning on the TV and watching these bars, and I don't know what they mean. And it was like, I don't know, just random color bars. But there is a lot of stuff that these people has worked a lot to contribute in the television and all the media aspects. So it's pretty amazing about this story that they have. I don't know if you want to add anything else. Please help me with this part because you are the experts here.
Maya, go
Well,
ahead.
you have the color bar, you have the time code, and that's really what everybody knows us for traditionally. Uh, to start with the first one, it was the perforation on the film. So to make the film uniform and to play across all the cameras, that was the first standard that SMPTE was actually created to produce. And it was the first time where multiple different producers and companies and factories got together and said, okay, we need to standardize this for the purpose of making sure that we can play these movies in all the cinemas. That was the first one, and the latest one, obviously, or the most important one that is currently taking place, and you can probably see it all over the world in trade shows and everything. It's ST2110, which everybody is applying, and we do a lot of training for how to do ST2110, how to implement it, how to build a facility, and similar. But that is something that is our focus at this time. Also, I know that the standards team, Thomas Bausa-Mason, our director of standards, is also here. Is the content provenance and authenticity that they are working on, including potentially building some AI standards for the future, et cetera, et cetera. But yeah, 110 years next year, we are preparing a big a campaign for next year, and stay tuned. Thank you for doing this.
Oh, thank you for being here. This is super great, and it's an honor to be working with you. So thank you for being here. Well, and as Maha said, so they have a century of knowledge, and that's super cool because they have talking. We met before, of course, before this presentation. So they have a lot of standards, conference papers, documents, digital content that they have, again, from more than 100 years ago. Everything that happened from 70, there is an archive about that, and that's super helpful also for people like me, maybe more new into the into the production and the video world, because I know I have just been 15 years in this industry compared to the 100 years of of 70. It's like, yeah, I'm new, and it is great that all this knowledge exists and is over there, and sometimes we are even reinventing the wheel because we don't know that this was invented or why this was invented and things like that. So it's amazing that we have all that knowledge somewhere. But the main gap and the issue, as I understood, is that how now, with all that history, how can we navigate that information? Right now, like, all that information is on a bucket, right? In that SMPTE has, and again, they have all the specs. They have all the key decisions and meetings. It could be meetings, board meetings, or whatever, but also like the working group saying, okay, we have to do this because of blah blah blah, and that's like the real things, that real discussions, the technical discussions that happen, that when you learn about why things are made this way. meeting recordings, conferences recordings, presentations, a lot of stuff over there on an S3 bucket waiting for us, of course. So the idea of what we want to try to build here, first is a proof of concept of a media AI copilot. So we want to try to achieve to a modular open source solution with any, it's like a, like the interfaces of ChatGPT, Microsoft Copilot, Gemini, all the LLMs over there, where you just can type something and say, hey, why the color bars were made that way? Why they choose the colors? Something like that. And you can get answers for that, saying, oh, look, this is a reference in this document in paragraph number 20, and something like that, says blah 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 blah, and what this is why it's not red and it's a similar color to the red that was chosen, something like that. And the idea is that we can query this copilot, and we can have, again, answers that with clear links to where the information came from. And that's, oh, and super important. And also, we would like to understand and apply user access level permissions, because imagine that you are in the board of SMPTE or any other organization who would like to use this, and maybe you don't need, maybe you don't have to read some meetings or stuff like that. So it's very important to understand also from us that how to apply in the AI world the same type of permissions we were used to do in a database or something like that. And I think that's a complete challenge. So that is very cool to work with. So what's the first goal we need to achieve together? So I think the first thing we have to do is understand and define the architecture of this Media Copilot. So, and to do this, we need to learn the state of the art of how AI can use to do this. For example, the techniques as RAG is one of the most common strategies to achieve this. Also, we would like to explore what currently exists on the open source community, and probably Bhavesh can help us a lot, because Bhavesh, you have started to do something similar with for SBTA, so probably you already tried a lot of stuff. And also something you can start to contribute with us right now, it would be great to gather some examples of prompts of things you would like to say. Oh, for example, Scott, you say, yeah, I know a lot about video. I would like to have a clear answer to this question, and I know what the answer is going to be. So we can then compare on what is your expectation as a video engineer and what the system already did. And that will be also super cool to get all the data. And probably, Thomas, this is also for you. Like maybe you already know, oh, I would like to have all this information if I ask this particular question. So that's something we will need to check if what the system is answering is what it's expected from the output. And that will be super helpful for the development. How to get involved? So first of all, we created a GitHub repository. Right now it's on Qualabs/smpte-copilot. I will share the screen with the repos just for you to check out. Thank you, Nico. Also, you can join these calls that are going to be weekly, 60 minutes, friendly and focused about how, the final challenge, define what is blocking us, define what we need to define, and move forward. The idea is here to talk with the teams, with the team that is implementing this. From Qualabs, we have put, there is a team working on this. So I can see in the call, Nicolas Caballero, Victoria, Andres, they are going to be here building the system for us from Qualabs, and that's super cool. I can see more people in the call, so if I forgot to mention someone, oh, Wami, you're there.
Yeah,
too.
I'm also here.
I should show you. So the team is going to be here, and you can join and help us to define how to move on the project. And also stay tuned in the video dev org Discord server. There is a particular channel. For those who have been on video dev, they moved from Slack to Discord. So we are also moving to Discord with them. And we created a particular channel, text channel, where you can go and chat with the team, ask wherever, or saying, "Oh, I found this particular link that is super helpful. I did this, or I want to calibrate what I can do," and just discuss there. Let me show you 1 second. Change the screen, and I will start sharing my whole screen here, just for you to take a look very quickly. So the idea with the repo, this is the repo in the Qualab smpte-copilot. Right now we only have like a contributing markdown, just to talk about, hey, if you want to add some code, just fork this repo and then do a pull request, how to report issues and everything. Also, all the Discord links are here, so you can just type here and join the Discord community. Of course, this is open source. Every contribution everyone is going to do, it's under Apache 2.0 license for this, for the core. And we are going to work on the issues. So any idea, anything that we had to define, everything will be here. So you can just go to the issues in this project, just click in, for example, hey, collect some examples. And oops, looks like the CSS is broken. Yeah. So this is an issue like, hey, we need to have some samples on how to of data that now we are going to do something to be able to query that data. So yeah, we need some samples, and here we can follow the discussion. Or for example, identify available open source tools and techniques. So the idea is, if you want to just join, just maybe a good place is, hey, I know some tool I would like to try, or whatever, or let's compare the differences between these two projects. So you can just jump in here into the discussions, and the idea of the offline discussion is to be on the tickets. Also, here it is. This is the Discord channel. You will see that we have this Montevideo Tech Summer Camp section. And here you will find the smpte-copilot text channel. We are going to put all the links and all news, everything here. And also this voice channel that you can also join, as Scott did, and jump around. The team from Qualabs is going to be there, so you can jump around and just say hi, or whatever thing you want to help, or they will be there doing some live coding probably. It's like the virtual office. So that will be super cool, and you're invited to just join. Great. This is the formal kickoff. So the idea now is for you to ask any question you may have, everything we need to work around or whatever. And yep. And if we also have time, just start discussing about this, about like where to start to define everything we need, and also from the issues we already have open and how to move on with this. So Andy, I don't know if you want to add anything else also to all this and the challenge. And
put myself on mute so you didn't have to listen to me typing. Thank you. That was an excellent overview, and I think you captured a lot of the spirit that is what is there. I think another thing, this is a problem I've seen across a number of different places. Bhavesh called out exactly a lot of the scenarios that he's worked with in the SVTA work. I've seen it at newspapers, studios, other places. And one of the things that will be very valuable about it is not only how do we go search and index a variety of different multimedia files for inclusion in responses, how do we accurately ensure that we're citing material back correctly so that we're always providing real answers, not some invented or hallucinated item. That's super important when you're talking about something like an industry standard. You don't want to give them false information as part of it. You also want to build in role-based access or identity pieces. So in other words, you may want different answers for different people, and it's less about the content, it's more about the amount of information that is included. So in a SMPTE world, for example, a member may get a different response that is less explicit than a staff member who is searching for results, or the author of a document who is perhaps using it. Similarly, inside of a movie studio or like a newspaper, you may have different responses that you want to provide for employees versus editors versus readers of the newspaper or a paid subscriber of the newspaper. So having that notion of lines of what information is included depending on what kind of identity is querying will be an interesting one to explore with the SMPTE team as we think through how we organize this material.
Andy, is there a concern, and maybe this is for Maha as well too, as you're looking through all the documentation, are you also concerned about the timing of information as it flows through and when ideas have changed, so that when you're asking a question, it doesn't answer from something from 1975 when there's a superseding document in 2005?
Yeah, I think there's definitely a notion of ensuring that you've got accurate and timely information, but I'll pause there and let Mr. Mason jump in.
Yeah, thank you. No, it's my question is, yeah, I had a discussion with Andy and Maya already about this. So, Senate is somewhat particular. It's I wouldn't say the opposite of open source, but there are quite of limiting factors, right? So, for example, our conversations, if we develop standards, all these conversations are confidential, and so, for example, those we could not feed into an AI, depending on what AI it is, right? And that's actually one of my questions. If you say AI, what do you actually mean by that? What's the LLM you're using? So that plays a lot of, for our standards, and Andy already alluded to that. They're really documents which give you the minimum to implement an interoperable technology. That means when we are writing these documents, we're trying to minimize ambiguity, and without any interpretation which could lead to issues with interoperability. So the concern I obviously have is like, if you now take an AI and somebody's asking something and you get some sort of interpretation of what's written in the standard, that's of limited value, right? Because you don't want an interpretation, you want the exact words, so to say. So I'm curious about how you want to deal with that. Another question I had was, so this is an open source project. I saw your repo is public. Where's the data going to be residing, right? All that. And lastly, I think that there was Andy and Maya told me that you required access to our AWS environment. So I'm curious what requirements you have for that.
That's amazing. I can start answering some questions. Some
All right.
I don't know. For example, I think one of the great thing about let's talk about, for example, the privacy stuff. As you mentioned, hey, there are some notes that maybe we don't want to feed or something. Some early conversations with the team is like, first is like, let's create something where you can or analyze how difficult it is to create something that you can choose. For example, the model. Because maybe you can say, oh, maybe there is some modular way to say, I want to use Gemini or ChatGPT or my own the deployment of DeepSeek, something like that, in my own infrastructure. And it should be something pluggable in some way. And the idea is try to explore and learn about that. From the point of view of open source, the idea is not to put the documentation as open source. So the idea is to put whatever tools and Andy said like, oh, this is a problem that it's probably that a newspaper may have, for example. So all the part of the code needed to analyze the document and generate, for example, a vector DB or any other stuff that may happen, like the code for the scripts, the process, that should be open source, not the result of parsing the documents. So that it's private for the content owner. So we are imagining like trying with maybe some documents. Maybe you cannot, and this is something to discuss here also, like maybe you say, I don't have any empty public document that we can try on with everyone. Then we can try to find some alternatives that looks like the content that SMT may have. So we can work in a prototype using similar information. And then, of course, we have like the open source, and you can run it in your own infrastructure without putting any document in public or whatever. So that's also something we can explore together. But the idea is, again, not to like, oh, the open source part will be the process of a document, not the document and the result of processing the document. I don't know if that is clear for everyone.
Yep, makes sense to me. Thomas,
So
did that answer your question, or?
Yeah, no, actually, you know, maybe I asked too many questions at once, so that should.
No, don't worry, don't worry.
But going back to the AI, so you did I understand right? You know, depending on you know what you want to do, you use either any of the publicly available you know general LLMs, general purpose LLMs, right?
Because that's we want to explore the way to be modular. So, for example, we will create something that you can put on your infrastructure, and you can choose, I want to use, I don't know, ChatGPT, and it will be in your deployment where you can choose the whatever LLM you want. That's why we want to try to learn how to do it. So you will have. So we were just going to create something that you, as SMT, you can deploy your own infrastructure and be owner of everything that happened from how to process document and whoever is querying your data. Does it make sense to you?
Yeah, the problem we're having is currently, you know, I'm just talking for standards documents here, so not the journals or anything else, but for the standards documents, I can tell you that we have currently guidelines that we will not allow to use these documents in, you know, ChatGPT, you know, Gemini, you know, Copilot, or any of those, right? To be honest, it's an ongoing discussion that we have to figure out under what circumstances can we actually use our documents in AIs, right? So that I can't give a real answer currently, besides saying, you know, those which I just named, we probably couldn't use for the standards documents at least, right? The other question I had was about the requirements for AWS, right? You know, there was some Andy and Maya told me that you were looking at deploying in our SMPTE AWS environment, and I was just curious what that would look like. What you're looking for, what you're asking, what are the costs, right? That's
good. Yeah. So the answer is I don't know, and that is something we are going to because this is an exploratory project. So probably we are going to run stuff on our cloud, Qualys cloud, because we are pounding this, and for development, try things, and hopefully, if we have a proof of concept that is working, we are going to give you everything you need for you to deploy in your infrastructure. But we are not. If you want to give us access to some sandbox where we can deploy it, maybe we can explore that more. Let's say if we achieve something first, but the idea again is that you will be able to deploy it wherever you want.
Can I comment something? Like having you here and hearing you saying these restrictions is what will make it this successful. So first of all, thank you for bringing this up. So because this is what will guide us towards an architecture that fits your requirements. So that these things that you're bringing up is the things we will try to include as restrictions to our solution. Then what we will open source are the tools that you can then use that will fit those requirements.
One other area, and then I'll let others jump in, because Barry, I know your hand's got to be getting tired. Thomas, I'd love to revisit and verify whether it is explicitly all standard documents cannot be used with LLMs, or all standards documents cannot be used with LLMs that have not had training options turned off, because that is certainly something you are capable to do with all of the LLMs that are out there, so that effectively you're just using it as a search mechanism, not a training area. So that's one we can take up later, because it's another nuance.
And I'm aware of that. So that's obviously under discussion.
Yep.
As I said, we're currently, what we are doing, just to give you a pointer, what we are orientating ourselves is the ISO AI guidelines on use of AI in standards development. And that's our kind of guiding post. And if you Google it, you find it.
Yep, I have it. 229989, I think, is one of them.
Good.
Great. Barry, I will hand over to you.
I just it feels to me like one of the goals would be, and I think Nico kind of touched on this, is we're trying to create a modular framework where we're abstracting the underlying document store and we're abstracting the underlying LLM selection, that the SMPTE implementation becomes a proof of concept on how you could do this, and then spread this out across the world for other document stores, right? So
Absolutely.
I think it's important to maintain these abstraction layers where, if SMPTE wants to use a local LLM that's running on their own infrastructure that they can then train privately, that's probably more powerful than using a public one. And I think having all those options and looking at it from that framework as we develop it is what's going to be important.
And one comment I was going to add to that one, I'll put my hand down to too, is if we work on it, Bobby and Nico, and we create a framework for training it or asking questions where we can make the system prompt modular or the user prompt, the prompting modular, then we can have where the open source part is the part that everyone else can use, and we can create a component where SMPTE people can continue to extend the prompt for their own purposes and keep that one private to themselves. That way they can maintain something that is much more usable and specific to them, and we can keep the open source stuff to be more generic, not be part of it.
Yes, agree. Thank you, Bhavesh. Thank you, Barry. James, I see you with a hand up.
Yeah, and I'm gonna, since Andy has suggested in the chat that I talk to the other types of documents that SMPTE deals with, it's important to bring to folks' attention that there are two fundamental parts of SMPTE. There's the international organization, of which standards and the SMPTE journal and education and the international conferences are all managed through the international organization that's headquartered in White Plains, New York. There's another aspect to SMPTE, and that is the sections that are worldwide, where for members, SMPTE is a membership organization. It is supported by membership dues to a great extent. And a part of the value add for members is, in many cases, they have chapters around the world that they are members of. And the chapters generate their own content. Many of them have monthly or yearly meetings. Some of them have regional conferences. Many of us who are part of this what we call the sections, also participate in things like standards. Like I work with Thomas in the SMPTE standards area. I work with Maya and Deanne on the journal and in education. And so we've got a lot of crossover, but there are different content types and different needs for searchability and usability and accessibility. And this is where the different levels of accessibility, through a login wall, through credentialing. This is where this becomes important, because each one of the sections that is active has its own chair, its own officers, which are known as managers, its own financial management. And so they need to have, and in fact, we've already started creating a cloud-based storage environment for the documentation and the audiovisual content that are generated by the sections. And so the international organization and the sections have a lot in common, a lot of the same needs, but there are meaningful distinctions between those two different aspects of the organization. And so we will probably be able to explore, especially when it comes to pools of content that we can turn whatever toolkits are going to come out of this, we can turn them to. We've already started putting those together in cloud environments where we have probably a fair amount more flexibility than Thomas does in standards on what we can use, as long as it doesn't leak out into the general universe, as long as our data does not become part of general learning models. We have the same concern that, or a similar concern to what Thomas and standards have. We don't have the same legal requirements that standards do, but what happens in the sections many times needs to stay in the sections. And for the data that can be shared between sections, but maybe not publicly available where anybody around the world could access it, we need to make a distinction between those three types of levels of access: the extremely locked down, the more open, and the publicly available.
Thank you. Yeah, it's great to understand how it works internally, because that's super critical to understand whatever we are designing or learning, or where to focus, to what kind of use cases we need to cover. So thank you.
Sure.
Thomas.
Yeah, and while James was talking, it's actually not really kind of like that standards is very much more restrictive. But I mean, we're looking at our documents from a publisher perspective, and as you probably followed in the news, there are now newspapers, big publishers who having infringement lawsuits against the general purpose LLMs, and so that's kind of like the mindset. So it's not very standard specific, but yes, standards. If we talk standards, these are de jure standards documents we're developing. They have legal standing. We're following a process. Part of that process is that we're following some legal requirements, and that's where this all comes from. And with that, actually, I had another question. Is there anything from your side in terms of legal requirements you need from SMPTE? Are there any agreements to sign? Anything you require?
I would say the other way. Is there any requirement from SMPTE?
I'm working on that.
We just need like a collaboration mindset. If we are going to collaborate with this, like, as I'm saying, okay, maybe we need, like, the first goal is, hey, we need some samples. That it could be some samples from documents or whatever that are public available from SMPTE, and if there are not, then we can find together any kind of data that has the similar type of information, so we can work with. So,
all right.
Fabian?
Yeah, no, that was one of the things I have on my to-do list is to figure out with our lawyers, is there anything we need to do in terms of legal documents if we give you that content.
To give you an example, just an example. Imagine that for some reason you cannot give us any document, and it's fine. So maybe we can work together saying, okay, let's go to for example, to IETF or W3C and find documents that are similar structure to what you know about how SMT structured the documents. So we can pick some examples and work with them. And yeah, of course, we're not going to query SMT data. We're going to work, for example, with W3C data. But after we finish the project, you can pick the project, run the same process to index with your data in your private cloud, and we are not going to put any SMT document into the wild. So again, we can find workarounds to have a proof of concept working.
Yeah, I don't want to clog up this discussion with legal issues, but just a comment that just because it's openly available doesn't mean that you can use it in an AI. But
So yeah, that's something we can figure out while the team starts to understand, hey, this should be modular, how blah blah blah. We can figure out what is the sources we are going to work with, and that's like plan B. We can do something with some document that it's available on internet, that it's open source in the spec world. Bhavesh,
and
I
Thomas,
think you have
it's super important that we understand the constraints, right? I mean, so that's super valuable input, because we can't do this in a vacuum without understanding what those constraints are. So don't feel bad that you're throwing constraints at us.
Yeah. No, I will tell you too that we do have big members in the standards community who already asking these questions of us, and what is SMPTE doing to prevent that IP and all that ends up in ChatGPT or Copilot or all this, right? And so I'm just gonna make sure that I cover my ass, right? So because at the end they come after me, so.
And also that's why we say this is a proof of concept. So it's a proof of concept. We are going to figure out whatever we need to move and get to something that and also again, it's a learning project. So something I also talk with Fabian, and also it could be Bhavesh, or the idea is here that we are everyone here is trying to surf the AI wave and understand. So maybe we can have, even in these discussions, these sessions, 20, 15 minutes presentation from someone who wants to say, hey, I learned what RAG is. Great. Give us a presentation to everyone so we learn from that. Okay, I understood how, I don't know, how to do, or I find 3 ways to do content restriction, to restrict the content or restrict the extraction of data regarding, okay, give a presentation and we learn together. And that's the way to surf this AI wave together. And again, we can finish with some proof of concept and with a lot of knowledge, so we can understand, and maybe you, even Thomas, can go and say, oh, I learned this and that, so don't worry, whatever, or this is the way to follow because we learned this in the summer project.
And I think, sorry, Fabi, I'm going to jump ahead just quickly. I think that part of what we're going to learn is that we need to move beyond like the naive RAG, and we've got to get an education really fast on the advanced RAG techniques, because in order to be effective for something that SMPTE is going to need to use, we're going to have to be in the really advanced stages. So as a group, is for the people who are learning, we've got to get them in through those stages of the learning the RAG stuff, get it in and out of the way fast, so we can start working on things like segmented, and doing role-based access control and coming up with models inside there. I think that might be, we can either check to see if it's already being done in the open source community. If not, that might be something to add in, which is, what are some of the cool ideas that we can have that allow us to train and create a RAG system that can be requested or used by different types of groups and give different answers based on their access control.
Yep. And I wanted, do you have something else, Bhavesh?
I'm good.
I want going back to the requirements. Mostly, what from the technical standpoint, what I see is we need to know, are we dealing with PDFs that have tables in it? Like each kind of file, if it's an MP4, if it's raw video, if it's text. So this is more important right now to start working, because each of them will be a different pre-processing pipeline that we will need to figure out how to index and store in different vector databases. So as Nico said, having sample files serve us to move forward with the implementation and start figuring out how the RAG or the solution we provide will work. Right now, I'm watching I'm seeing a standard, so diagrams are in such a way, and other ones have graphics and different things that we'll need to pre-process differently. I think that's what we need to know to start doing something.
If I could speak to that for a second, we deal with pretty much all the major file types that are out there. So there are PDFs, there are Excel spreadsheets, there are Microsoft Word or RTF-based documents. There is audiovisual content, which could be WAV, it could be uncompressed, it could be compressed. We deal with videos of various types, from SD to HD to 4K. There's all types. We've got JSON documents where we have metadata expressions as JSON documents. We have metadata expressions as XML documents. We occasionally have stuff as HTML documents. We've got all different flavors.
Wonderful. Then it comes which one will add more value, or which ones we will want to prioritize or are easier to implement.
Right.
I guess.
Amazing. It's a jungle of documents.
Yeah.
Scott, you were going to say something, I think. You are muted.
Yeah, I withdrew my question, but I will ask it. I'm just wondering, Thomas, like generally working with lawyers is not a 2.5 month process ever. It's usually a much longer process, as we all know. So I guess I'm wondering, is there, if we can think about a carve out, like, you know, what are the documents that are currently publicly accessible? And then the requirement that we don't feed those to public, you know, LLM, you know, eating machines, such that we, you know, can we find some carve out here that makes sense? Because, you know, obviously time is also of an essence here for the project to do something meaningful. So I just wanted to throw that on the table to put it in your brain, which I'm sure you're already thinking about it.
Yeah, I mean, it's again, I mean, just because a document is publicly available and freely available, it doesn't mean that, you know, you can use it in an LLM. And I think that's the crux of the problem. It's also, I mean, I raised the question, you know, do we need to start with the standards documents? You know, why you know, is there anything else you want to start with first? Because, you know, looking at the standards documents, if you want an explanation, they're not the most fruitful, you know, documents. Again, they're very usually, I mean, there are exceptions which are not good standards, but if you have a good standard, it just gives you the bare minimum what you need to implement. So there's nothing in there in terms of explanation and all this. So the explanation you would really get from conversations which are happening in the drafting group. But those conversations are confidential. So we could by no means use those, right? What gives you an idea how standards documents are being structured, we are following the ISO directives part 2. So if you Google that, you will find that. And that's a document from, so SMPTE documents with few exceptions are governed by these directives. And they give you in more detail than you ever wanted to, how you format a standards document. And that gives you an indicator how our documents are structured and the vocabulary we use, we don't say a section, we say clause, for example, right? And we're very adamant in enforcing that, right? So if that is a starting point, look at that. It's hard for me at the moment with us not having a clear understanding, what we want to do, to tell you, oh, use this document or that document, or this is allowed or that isn't allowed. The only guidelines I have at the moment is what again, we're following ISO, and they usually we follow an ISO process. We're following an ANSI process. I haven't looked at ANSI if they have any AI regulations for standards development, right? So, but that's where we're hopefully. I mean, it could be as simple. The other day I pinged our lawyer and I said I need a template for this and that. Can you write something up? And he said, well, here it is. Next day, and I had it, right? So let me reach out to them and see what he says. And he's involved in many other organizations, standards organizations. So he may have a quick answer. But yes, it could be years.
Yes, could be. Thank you. Yeah.
But I would say that, yes, it is an option to maybe just include a couple of standards as samples, Thomas, in the sandbox, but not focus on them entirely. What we can definitely start with is all the other education content that we have. And those are our journal articles from the past, our conference proceedings, and then a major part of what we actually want to do is content that is videos from our section events, our webinars, and conferences. So that's definitely something that we can work with immediately.
The one question I would have is, instead of don't just think about what documents you're going to put inside there. Think about, well, who's going to ask for it? What information are they going to need? Is this stuff that anyone's actually going to use, or is it just putting documents for the sake of putting documents inside there?
So if I may, we've put a fair amount of thought into that already, where, especially when it comes to section-related documents, and especially anything involving section meetings, there's a level of need, because the officers of the SMPTE sections turn over every few years, where new people come in. At the very least, basic search functionality saying, what is for my section? What content is in my section's holdings? What meetings have we done over the last 20 years? Things like that. And then many times, because a lot of the sections cooperate with each other, I'm in the Washington, D.C. section, and we cooperate with Toronto and New York and LA on either developing our own meetings around a common theme, or, for whatever reason we may collaborate. And so for section leaders who need to know what's out there, they need to know not only their own material, but also what's in other sections. And so that would be probably some of the first toolkits that would be necessary. And then, of course, the folks in the international organization would like to know what's going on in the sections anyway. And, making something searchable and available for them based on terminology that they want to use, which may be different than what we use in sections. I imagine would be part of the functionality that they would want to use as well. And especially in the journal, since the journal has been historically and continues to be, one of the largest mouthpieces for technology, for the technology of the organization, for the documentation of the organization. It's an expression of the various types of work that have gone over the last 109 years that SMPTE has existed. And it goes beyond the standards. Being able to either search things that are already in the historic journals, the things that have been published over the 109 years, but also for folks who continue to work on the publication of the journal. Also, if there are interesting subjects that have come up in the sections, bringing those to their attention so they can say, can I talk to somebody about getting a paper written for the journal because they did this really interesting meeting on a particular subject at this point in time. It is information that can flow both ways. Does that make sense?
I think there is a lot to discuss here. I don't want to be the bad in the party, but we are run out of time, and I want everyone to be. I want to take care of everyone's schedule agenda. So thank you everyone for being here for the kickoff, and probably a lot of these topics we're going to cover and continue talking about for 2.5 months. So it would be great for, again, take all the information, think about new questions, new things that may arise. You know now where to find us. It could be on Discord, on Video Dev, or even by on the GitHub. So thank you everyone. I hope to see you again next Monday, and let's continue with the discussions.
Thank you all. Thanks,
Thank you.
Nico.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye.
See you.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Thank
See
you.
you.